Starting to stream. Live. Live on the Metal Voice. Metal Wani meets Metal Voice. What's going on, Vitek? What's going on, man?
That's just screwed up day here, but listening to the new music from U.D.O, from Doro, so many other good bands. How about you? How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I mean, it's a lot of heat in North America and Europe. I'm not sure. I know you told me it's monsoon season there in India. So run for
Right,
cover, I guess. I don't know.
right.
All right. Today on the show, the one, the only Mr. U.D.O, Dirk Schneider, with Steelfactory, his new album, as well as Doro's new album. And my God, I keep getting this wrong. It's Forever United. No, wait a second.
Forever
Forever
Warriors.
Warriors, Forever United. You know, I keep getting it confused. It's a double album. We'll talk about Doro after we talk about U.D.O. So, right off the bat, U.D.O's new album. I mean, this is what is, I'm trying to remember here. What is this? 14th, 15th, 16th?
16th studio album.
16th studio album. Producer is Jacob Hansen, who has produced Volbeat. It's coming out on August 31st on AFM Records. Right off the bat, my friend, I'll let you, since you're my guest today, MetalWani.com, the one, the only editor-in-chief, Vitek Nabi. Is that the right pronunciation of your last name? Nabi?
That's right.
My buddy, and we haven't talked in 7 months.
Months.
I can't
That's
even
right.
believe
That's
we
right.
haven't talked in 7 months.
Time flies.
My pal from the other end of the world, who'll be going to Japan pretty soon, which is fantastic. Vitek, the floor is yours. Tell me about your thoughts about U.D.O's new album.
It's a consistent heavy metal album, and I mentioned the word consistent because it has the formula, or let me say the precise formula that U.D.O has developed
Yep.
throughout his career. So I feel, if as a heavy metal fan, if you're somebody who wants to rock out to kind of no frills, no bullshit kind of a record, I think this album have you covered.
Okay, cool.
So it's fairly consistent. That's what I'm trying to say here. So, but yeah, some of the songs could have been little, could have skipped some songs. But overall, U.D.O has delivered a damn good album. Even this is the 16th album. It's quite huge. But keeping the consistency in mind, the guy has still got the power to release some rocking tunes.
You know, I find this album a cross between Accept. It's a hybrid between Accept and U.D.O. I don't know if that sort of like you feel that
True.
vibe. I mean, you got those sort of neoclassical scales sometimes happening. You have that sort of Arabic sort of scales happening, which Wolf Hoffman likes to use in a lot of the
Right.
earlier Accept music. And it's sometimes I got to tell you, I go, wait a second, this reminds me of even Accept with Mark Tornillo era. I go, what the hell's
Right.
going on here? But it is
Right.
U.D.O, and U.D.O sounds fantastic vocal wise. What do you make of the drums? Okay, so just to give you a little bit of a premise, I mean, when U.D.O started his solo career, it was a band, and the
Yeah.
first 3, 4 albums were I love them. And then it sort of hit the 90s and the millennial, and things sounded a little bit too cut and paste, phoned in.
Hmm.
It sounded like
Repeated.
the songs were great, but it sounded too processed. Like he just kind of made it in a home studio. I mean, very, I don't know, slimmed down home studio. What do you make of the drums? Do you think that Sven is actually playing on this album?
Uh, as far as I remember, I recall this reading an interview where he mentioned that he did record the drums, and in fact, it reminds me of this one song where actually I love the drums, and that's "Make the Move." I don't know whether you've heard that.
Yeah.
It's perfect. It's a perfect example of how simplicity can. How simplicity in terms of drums, in terms of the drum lines, which the drummer has recorded, it's really smooth. And I want to point out one more thing which you just mentioned was it kind of reminds you of a hybrid between Accept and U.D.O.
Yeah.
There were certain moments when I was listening to it and I felt, Wolf has written this riff, and there's a song like I mentioned, "Make the Move," which has this really amazing bass line written by Fiddy, and it reminds me of Peter Boyce.
Yeah.
So it's like that the moments where you just kind of think, oh no, it's not Peter or it's not Wolf, it's somebody else, but still somewhere the heart, the metal heart still remains there,
Yes,
right?
yes. The
So no
middle
matter
heart.
it's U.D.O or Accept, you still feel that those two guys are somewhere within the picture, invisible, but I can still feel it.
Yeah. Such good points, man. overall, I would think this is a great album. And I'm just going to go quickly through the songs. I'm not sure if you have a song list in front of you or not. Tongue Reaper, that would probably be the weakest track for me off the album because it kind of sounds too much like Rev Raptor, and that was the sort of like generic period I was talking about. But then the album really kicks off, like Make the Move, like you said, Keeper of My Soul, which is a nice, creepy, sort of accept-like song. In the Heat of the Night, probably the big hit off the album, another mid-tempo, a toe-tapping, fantastic, melodic, accessible song. Raise the Game, another
Raise the Game.
great
Perfect.
song.
Really good song.
Then you go, oh my
I
God,
love
this
how
accept.
I love how he growls that "No More Fear, No More Tears." That section of the song in "Raise the Game" is phenomenal. Before the actual chorus comes in, it's like you got like fists in the air.
Yes.
That, Udo is really killing it. I love the track "Raise the Game."
Yeah, same here. And then, just going down the list, Blood on
It's
Fire.
Rising High. I recall that song "Rising High."
Oh, Rising High. Yeah, that's right. And that is like Metal Heart Days, right? Can we not say that's Metal
absolutely.
Heart Days?
Absolutely, like a classic heavy metal stuff. Like really.
Yeah. And then we have Blood on Fire, which now I was talking about the neoclassical sort of riffs, those little fills. Yeah, they're there. And then you go, wait a second, is this Accept or is this U.D.O? Or it's both, right? It's a hybrid.
There's one song which sounds like kind of like werewolves kind of a song, a bite of evil or something. Is that so?
A Bite of Evil. Yeah, and when he's like,
right. It's like
right.
You kind of come out at, because his lyrics also, I remember going through that where he mentioned it was something like coming out at midnight. By sunrise I'll be gone.
Yeah.
And my fangs and my fur is turning black. I mean, it's like kind of a scary story for heavy metal kids.
Yeah.
Kind of stuff.
Agreed. And you know what? He's got those growls from Balls to the Wall, because in Balls to the Wall he has those little, I don't know what you want to call it,
like that.
He does that a lot on Balls to the Wall.
Raspy, roary kind of a vibe that comes out of U.D.O's, vocals.
And this is an aggressive, and this could have came off Balls to the Wall. Fantastic song. And Eraser, which I could have done without. It sounded a little too, I don't know what you want to call it, Rev Raptor Process Days, generic. But, the album just still kicks, and with Rose in the Desert, another 90s-ish, maybe Accept Days, and The Way, which is a ballad. Do you remember that ballad on The Way?
The last one, right.
And it's sort of, he reflects back on life. And he's done a lot of those in his past few albums. He's got a great ballad. He's a great ballad singer,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, overall, anything else you want to add?
No, like I mentioned, 13 songs on the album I guess it's too much when you're confined within the boundary of what U.D.O has done throughout this years with Accept, and even as a solo artist. I still feel that artists need to understand that they need to keep their albums within 8 to 10 songs.
Yeah.
I just don't get the point of expanding more than that. I mean, I understand creativity is at its prime and you're more, you want to write more songs. That's totally understood. But at the same time, you need to filter out. I mean, take a look at the bands like Voivod. I've never seen them crossing 10 songs. I mean, even their new album, 8 songs, no killer, nothing, no filler. It's just pure precise. And I just hope artists do take a note of that, to not just release, you fill the album with a bunch of shit, doesn't really help. No. So there really needs to be some kind of filtering. And the same is the case with U.D.O as well. Steelfactory is a good album, a really good heavy metal album, but it's got its fillers, which could have been avoided to make it pretty solid classic heavy metal album.
You're bang on in everything you said. Less quantity, more quality. Because when you concentrate on 8 songs, those songs and all the albums that we love, let's call it the classics of all time, usually have between 8 to 9 songs. It's
Absolutely.
Because, and there you go. So that's U.D.O. Pick it up. AFM Records. Here's a shirt I got from AFM. You can't actually see it right now. They send me the sampler.
Dustin has sent you a shirt, is it?
Yeah, Dustin sent me a shirt. Thank you very much, Dustin. It's all for metal. That CD sampler, you might have got it as well. So
he's a legend, dude. He's a legend. Dustin. Hats off to Dustin at AFM Records. Absolutely.
So definitely, what would you rate it out of 10? What would you rate it out of 10, U.D.O's album?
It would be between 7. I would say 7 would be a precise number for this album. I think 7 would do justice. But I really want people to go and check it out and listen to some of the tracks and decide that whether you want to buy it. I would still recommend you to buy it, but 7 is the perfect one for this album.
I would put it probably, I don't know, I kind of liked it a lot more than you did. I would put it more like 8.5 out of 10. I think he's firing off on all cylinders. Maybe like 2 bum tracks, but I think the album is definitely probably one of his better albums. Definitely go pick it up. Worth the value, and I kind of liked it more that I listened to it. So when I first heard it, I go, oh yeah, it's okay. But the more times I heard it, the more times I appreciated the little nuances. And I think he's singing better than ever, and I think the band's playing is better than ever. And who knows? Maybe in the future I would even rate it even higher. So, but for me, it stands at 8.5, and that's all cool.
It's a grower.
Yeah, it's a grower, definitely a grower. All right, let's switch gears here a bit.
A
Tell me quickly, because I got to step away for 10 seconds from here, but I want you to just tell everybody about Doro. Did you see her at Wacken?
That was really special, if you ask me, because let's put it this way. It was right after Doro played her set. It was a really great set. Everybody had so much fun, and there were probably around 80,000 people out there. And it was, I don't know whether you recall, it was actually her 30th anniversary show. Sorry. So that was a really, really quite a magical number, if you ask me. But at the same time, it's really cool that she got this award, man. It's a beautiful award, and I'm sure everybody says that I never expected I would get it, but Doro definitely deserved it. That was, it's really great. So I'm glad that even after 35 years, she's still doing shows, she's still doing albums, and then recognizing her for the contribution she has done for heavy metal is fabulous. So, thumbs up to Doro. And, I recall she telling in one of the recent interviews we did with her was, in fact, it was just the other day where she mentioned that I could hardly hold back my tears because it was so emotional. She feels so blessed that she's been inducted into Hall of Metal, and that's quite a feat, if you ask me. So it's really great, and that's quite magical. So props to Doro for that.
You know what? I got to. So, I'm a huge supporter of Pat Gesualdo, a CEO and founder of the Hall of Heavy Metal History. I've been there. I've been supporting him from day one because I find that it's an institution for us. Because the the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is actually not about us. It's about sort of like what the big boys in the world want to do and who they want to put in there. But this is about us. This is a grassroots sort of movement. And it's picking up a lot of steam. We had Judas Priest being inducted, and now we have Doro, rightfully so, inducted into the Hall of Heavy Metal History. I put a picture of her there. I put a posting of the video feed that they gave me, the Hall of Heavy, and her induction speech. And I know you've interviewed her, and it couldn't be a better person. There couldn't be a better person who loves music, who has sort of been there from the start of heavy metal, and who has been a woman doing it.
Absolutely.
That's the most important thing. I wouldn't call her female friend, and I call her more of a, I don't know. She was part of, of course, her band in the early days, and now she's like this solo artist with countless solo albums, and the quality has never stopped. So, I mean, your quick impressions of this. It's a double album, going to be released. And what was the date? It's going to be released in a few days.
August 17th. It's 5 days from now.
That's right. So a double album. Should she have, again, it's called Forever Warriors, Forever United. Let me put up the picture so everybody could see this. Here we go. Boom. There we are. Let me just remove that. And there we go. There's the beautiful picture. Kind of looks like the Ronnie James Dio tribute album picture. Should this have been a double album, or should this have been just a single album with tell me your thoughts.
Not every double album is successful. Let me not put the word successful. I would say is something that grabs your attention because it's a lot of music. But my understanding is that Doro's plan was to keep this album one having more of a personal touch and other kind of little more explorative. Now, I don't know whether you know, but this album is dedicated to Lemmy Kilmister.
Yeah, yeah.
So she has dedicated this album to him. But if you look at the songs on this album, like I said before with U.D.O, it could be one album with 10 songs or 11 songs, and I think that would have done more justice than having, literally 20 odd songs, which is too much for me to digest. I don't know about other guys, but yeah, like my metal to be precise, and yeah, shouldn't. I think it's kind of a time consuming activity. So there's quite a good songs in there. One of my favorite being "Living Life to the Fullest," which is something I really like how Doro has written the lyrics, and also the vocal delivery is phenomenal. But overall, my 2 cents on this: too much to digest. Could have been just cut short a bit and make it just one single album.
You know what? The Guns N' Roses sort of Use Your Illusion Part One, Part Two. I feel even the same way
Yeah.
about Guns N' Roses. They could have made like a masterpiece of an album if it was one. Instead, they kind of watered it down with two. Do I say the same thing for this? I don't know. At first, my first listen, I go, the production's not bad. It's not your nuclear blast sort of drum blast production. It's a traditional heavy metal album, and I like the production. In some parts, maybe the mix was a little bit off. There was a song, this sort of speed metal like song, and I'm trying to remember what it was. I think it was Bastardos. The drums seem to be lost in the mix, and it's a speed metal song, and you need that drum presence there, And if I Can't Have You, which was a ballad with Amon Amarth, Johan
Johan
Hegg,
Hegg.
I don't know, they kind of lost me on that song too. Here's a ballad, a Cookie Monster ballad, right? It just doesn't work. I mean, if you want to do aggressive music, I get the Cookie Monster stuff. But I don't know, man. It's like, it's trying to sing. A ballad's supposed to be sort of soft and has to have that dynamics in the voice. And it's just like Cookie Monster is like, but I don't know.
I think it fails to deliver. If you ask me, I think you're talking about the song "If I Can't Have You, No One Will."
Yeah, that's right.
And
Yeah.
that's the one which is how do I put it? Like it's when it comes to Heg's vocals over this edgy ballad kind of a thing. It's I don't know. I mean, it's a little unusual if you ask me. Hegg is trying to channel his inner beast, and it kind of clashes with Doro's more relevant approach. It somehow just doesn't fit, and it failed deliver. I mean, when I heard that song for the first time, I was trying to think, what's happening here? Maybe I need to listen it one more time, and then I heard it again, and I was like, no, it's not happening. It's not working out. So
Yeah.
that was kind of. Johan is a phenomenal vocalist, man. I
sure.
love his, work on Namonamart. But I think sometimes you gotta pick up the right guest artist and see what basically complements your vocal uttering. It just because you have such a great personality like Johan doesn't mean that it's gonna always match. So
Agreed.
that's
Agreed.
that's something I believe is something a lesson should be taken by artists who have guests on their albums. Just because you have Corey Taylor on your album doesn't mean that your vocals are gonna match his. So you got to make sure that people can, look at both the sides and see, yeah, you guys are like kind of complementing each other instead of like screwing up the song.
Yeah, yeah. But I gotta say, with the exception of, I like All for Metal, which was the first single, right? With this sort of like guest appearances by like Millie from Creator and Chuck Billy and Warrell Dane, and you can see them in the video. Overall, I think it's pretty good. I mean, I wouldn't say it's horrendous having two albums, but if it was one album, it would have been like masterful. It would have been like one of the greatest albums she's ever broken. But there are really a lot of great songs on this album. I mean, Don't Break My Heart Again. I think that was a cool sort of like a touch of keyboards there, ballad like mid tempo, slide guitars happening, and then Love's Gone to Hell, another ballad. Maybe too many ballads. There was a saxophone on that song, and I think the big hit off the album, or the most accessible song, is Backstage to Heaven, which if you're gonna have a radio hit, that would be it. It even reminds me of Scorpions. Listen to that song
Right.
again, and listen to Backstage to Heaven if you forgot it, and go, you know what? That sounds like a Scorpion song. That could have been off of Love at First Sting. I really like the Lemmy song, Living Life to the Fullest, like you mentioned.
Yeah,
That
like you mentioned, that's one good song. In fact, the Forever United is one where the collection of songs from, I feel, a little more soulful than Forever Warriors. And the reason for that is it kind of echoes some of the work she has done on the classic Love Me in Black era. if you
Yeah.
ask me. Like, you have Lift Me Up, which is a pretty good song, like, well, like the best of ballads, while
Yeah.
you have the song like 1000 Years. Then you have
Perfect.
the
Yeah.
Heartbroken, which is also, kind of talks about the moment she was in when she heard that Lemmy has passed away.
Yeah.
And there's Cut So Deep. There's some of the good songs on Forever United one. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this review, that she has divided this album into something which is more of a personal approach, and then little more different. And Forever United is one such which probably touches. Fans can look into Doro's soul with the kind of writing she has done.
Yeah.
So yeah, Lemmy's song, like you mentioned, and that's yeah. But at the same time, I feel if Forever United could have been released as a standalone album, you would have succeeded.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's also another great. Is we forgot to mention this? "Lost in the Ozone," which is actually a cover. Unless you mentioned it, "Lost in the Ozone" is a cover
Yeah,
from
it's
Motorhead.
Motorhead's cover.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's a slow song after "Bastards," and she does a great job on it. And you mentioned "1,000 Years." That is an excellent track. It's really a
It's
great
unforgettable.
track. There's a lot of good stuff on these two albums. She does the Freunde, Fürs, Leben. I can't pronounce that. That's a German, lyrics on that, German vocals. Um, Overall, to me, I think it's worth the money. Definitely worth the money. You're getting a lot of
But if
Doro
you
for
ask me,
bucks.
she's been a little daring this time.
Yes.
That's something you gotta respect her. Like I mentioned, Forever Warriors is the songs in Forever Warriors are more daring than I've seen Doro do it in the past.
Yeah.
Like I said, United is more of a personal approach. Let's keep it aside. But if you ask me, like she's put out a dazzling record in the form of taking more chances instead of kind of staying within a box. So I like it that maybe that was her mindset, that I want to release two albums, one for the fans who love me for my personal approach, and one for the fans who want me to just move on and try to do something else. So yeah, kudos to her, man. At this point of time in her career, where she's spent 3+ decades, why not take a chance? There's nothing to lose.
You know what? It comes down to this. If you are a Doro fan, and I'm looking at the messages as they're going by here. Doro's much better live. Yeah, 100%. She could take these songs, go live, and they're just going to kick ass. And that's what she did at Wacken, by the way.
Right.
We have Tom saying that's exactly what he's saying. He's saying that live she just kicks ass. And one guy says, Mike says, I can listen to Doro all day. And you know what? I think there's two ratings here. If you're a Doro fan, you will absolutely love this. If you have everything she has, from Warlock days to now, you're going to love this album. And I think if you're just like a general heavy metal fan like myself, you're going to really like this album too. But I'm with you. I think it should have been one album instead of two, because it would have been, something like, one of her best albums ever if it was one album instead of two. But I get what she wanted to do. You're right. She wanted to like branch out, experiment, throw in. And it's been a while since her last solo album, right? So she just wanted to give
Right.
the fans, a lot of bang for their buck. And that's cool too. That's all good, man. There's no right or wrong answer here. We're just talking about, the album itself.
True, true. I agree with you on that. I think fans gotta listen to this album and decide for themselves. It's a pretty good album, and give it a chance once it's out in the next 5 days. There's some really good songs,
Yeah.
and yeah, I mean, it deserves really solid rating.
Yeah. I mean, I would definitely put it an 8 out of 10, even a little higher, maybe 8.2, 8.3 out of 10.
I would agree with you on 8.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's solid. When I first heard the album, again, it was a grower too. I go, it's typical Doro. If you love Doro, then you're going to love this. And she does so well with the
Yeah,
melodies.
let's
She
put it
sings
that
so
way.
well. Yeah, exactly. And, great that she's been inducted into the Hall of Heavy Metal History. And U.D.O picked that up too. So, Nuclear Blast, Doro, Forever United, Forever Warrior, or Forever Warrior, Forever United. Uh, I keep getting confused with the, which way's which, but it doesn't really matter, does it? Just pick it up, Nuclear
Right.
Blast, great album. And I'm wearing, the AFM Records t-shirt, All for Metal, which kind of fits with Doro, All for Metal, right?
Absolutely, man. There's a song on that. The leading single itself is all for metal.
Yes, yes,
So
yes, yes. So there you go. That's Nuclear Blast and AFM merge. Some quick notes from people who have been just texting me as I haven't been reading anything. Hey, Jimmy, glad to watch the stream. Here's a question about Doro album. Does the sound of the production during the album seem to sound different at different stages? I've noticed that in the past of her albums. What do you think,
Yeah,
Vitek?
yeah. That's true. That's true. In fact, it's got to do with some of the songs being actually produced. At least I heard that. I'm not better. I don't know whether it's true or not. It's some of the songs are produced by the band themselves, and then there are some which are produced by one of the Doro's longtime friend, Anthony, or something his name is, and maybe that's the difference as well. That you find sort of minute differences in sound, especially on the drums
Yeah, yeah,
as
yeah.
you go on with the record. So I guess if you look at it as one piece and I listen to it from A to Z, you might find minor differences in the middle in terms of suddenly the drums going a little back and the
Yes.
mix coming, little weird. But if you kind of overlook them and just listen to them from a fan perspective and see how the songs are, I think it's a pretty quite a pretty interesting journey with all these ballads and some really good anthems on this album.
Does Tommy Bolin play on the album? And I think that's a yes. Tommy Bolin does play on the album. I'm
Yeah,
not sure if he plays on the
yeah,
whole album, but you could see that. And I think the reason why you talked about the mix is sort of like mixed up from song to song. It's probably because she recorded in different stages, right? And when you record in different
yeah.
stages, not one session, you tend to have an unbalanced sort of overall album.
Right. In fact, there's the song itself, the one which you're talking about, dedicated to Lemmy, is exactly when she had written it when he passed away, and it was, I believe, she was traveling, and then while she was on her flight, she was crying and she was trying to
Yeah.
digest this whole thing, and then she started writing the lyrics for the song, and that's what we hear today. So the song is like 3 years old, and then when you think about Doro writing an album, 20 songs, it's huge. It does take a good amount of time. So maybe some of the songs were written in, say, 2016, then some in 2017, and maybe a few in early 2018, and then all of them have been put into the record now. So like different times,
Yep.
so you will find minor differences.
So there you have it, folks. And by the way, we talked to Doro when Lemmy at his funeral. We had a quick little chat with her, and yeah, it's touching to look back that footage now and say, wow, see how the songs were developed from her emotions. Anyways, that's it. My buddy, my friend in India, moving to Japan, who will now be my friend in Japan. The one, the only Vitek Nabi, metalwani.com. These guys are
I think
huge.
Jimmy, you should do some recommendations for the fans every time you do a review. It's something which is really good because I'm sure there are people out there who check this review out want to explore something more, something maybe they might not have heard. So you should do recommendation at the end of every review that you
All right. Any
conduct.
recommendations you got there? What do you got there?
I
Recommendations
have in my
quickly.
head right now. I don't know if you guys are fans of. There's this German sludge band called Manta,
Okay.
and they have a new album coming out later this month called The Modern Art of Setting Ablaze. A really good, pretty rock solid extreme album. That's something you should try out. And there's obviously Alice in Chains. I love the album Rainy or Fog. I guess we should do a review on that, Jimmy.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a pretty damn good album. It's coming out August 24th, and I'm sure guys who listen to Alice in Chains, you're gonna love it. And those who are checking them out now, maybe you'll even fall in love with it. So it's a pretty good album. So
Eh,
I would recommend three albums:
eh,
Montar, Alice in Chains, and there's one really good album coming out later this month called Omnium Gatherium, Finnish melodic death metal band called The Burning Cold. So check these three albums out when they release in your respective regions.
And I'll even throw in one more. Primal Fear has their new album that just came out a few days ago, and I thought it was
Primal Fear
just
Apocalypse.
Apocalypse
I,
stellar album, and
phenomenal.
definitely go pick that one
Phenomenal.
up as well. So there you
At
have
this
it.
point of time, they're churning out some really good albums. Rolf is at its prime,
Yeah,
and all the songwriting on the album is phenomenal.
yeah. We're gonna have a review actually from Milwaukee Tom. He's gonna send me his review on Primal Fear's new album. He's a huge fan, and he was just so anxious to review it. But great album. I heard it. Sounds fantastic, and I'm gonna let everybody go. Um, That's it. U.D.O, Steelfactory, and Doro, Forever Warrior, Forever United. And Vitek, buddy, I'm going to talk to you soon. It won't be 7 months. We'll talk sooner, okay?
Take care, buddy. See ya.
Take care. Bye.